They killed Mythal. A crime for which an eternity of torment is the only fitting punishment. She was the best of them. She cared for her people. She protected them. She was a voice of reason. And in their lust for power, they killed her.
Solas at the end of Trespasser. Welcome to another theory video. This one wasn't going to get done for a while, but I bumped it up because of a comment I got on another video. The one that it was originally going to be done and will be done next is one over elgar'nan and whether or not he has siblings. This theory video, if you hadn't guessed by the title, is over the death of Mythal. What drove the others to kill Mythal? Who was really involved in her death? In reality, we know only pieces of what happened to Mythal. The only sources of information given on her death are within the Temple of Mythal from Abelas and from Solas at the end of Trespasser, and a little bit from Falon'Din when you meet her wherever you meet her in-game. We first learn of Mythal's murder from Abelas when investigating more about the Well of Sorrows. When he speaks of her murder, it is when we also learn the Dreadwolf had absolutely nothing to do with it. Within Dalish legend, we know that Finharel trapped all of the Elven Pantheon, meaning Mythal, elgar'nan, Dirthara, Falon'Din, Andruil, June, Solas, and Ghilan'nain within their realm, which in this instance Morgan calls the Beyond. Now, within Dalish lore, the Beyond also has another place, and it is mentioned within the lore regarding Falon'Din. Falon'Din leads the departed into the Beyond. It is his task, it is what he does. However, we know now from Solas that the veil was created to seal away the Elven Pantheon, which could mean that they are actually sealed within the Fade, or even within the Black City proper. However, this is not a theory video over the location of the Elven Pantheon. We will get to that later, in another theory video. With Solas, he tells on how the Evanuris were the ones who killed Mythal. This was ultimately what led him to start the war, which ended with him creating the veil to seal them away. Ironically, it was also so that they wouldn't destroy the world, which he ended up doing through the creation of the veil. Yet, even with the Dreadwolf's stance on how the others killed Mythal, and the term is used very loosely here, we know that a piece of Mythal lived on and joined with Flemeth, as we see in-game. And then he also goes and turns around and destroys Flemeth for her power, even though only a piece of her managed to be saved by her only moments before. So he basically does the same thing that he sealed away the others for 20 centuries later. But again, that's just irony there. Also, Abelas only tells us it was those who destroyed the temple who killed Mythal. Solas makes it out to be all of the remaining 7 Evanuris. But was it? Without him actually telling us more on this, or saying he saw them kill her, there is no telling who was behind her death. In order to form a theory on who it is who killed Mythal, we need to understand the 7 remaining Evanuris. First up, we have elgar'nan. He was known as being Mythal's husband, and was very easy to anger. And he was also very egotistical, as is seen in the memory where he has his slaves and servants carve his face into a stone as large as a fallen mountain. Then there is Falon'Din, who is said again by Solas to have had a war of mass conversion where he sought to gain more followers through bloodshed. He was only stopped when Mythal united the other Evanuris against him. Within the history and memories, or even just mentioned by Solas, there's absolutely nothing mentioned with Dirthara. The only thing that is ever known about Dirthara within the memories is actually relating to one of his followers. Said follower was tricked by Ghilan'nain into flying in the form of the Divine, who then went to Mythal for protection. Mythal refused that follower protection, and that follower ended up being judged by elgar'nan. Now in Andruil, we have another story entirely. Andruil ended up in many battles with Mythal. It was Mythal who stole the knowledge of how to enter the Forgotten One's realm from Andruil in order to stop the plague which was destroying Andruil's lands. Actual facts about the historical Solas and June have just as little or just a little bit more known about them than Dirthara, and that is only because the one memory that mentions them actually just mentions them and has nothing to do with their followers. Well, a little bit to do with their followers, but is not solely about their follower being tricked like Dirthaman's. So that's basically all the information we have about the true Solas and June at this time. Then there is Ghilan'nain, who is, even within memories, still known for her loyalty to Andruil. Looking at each of them and what is known, the ones which would have the largest grievances or would gain the most from Mythal's death are mainly Falon'Din and Andruil. However, elgar'nan could have easily seen her as holding them back, given her actions in stopping and interfering in wars between the other gods. Ghilan'nain is also more likely to side with Andruil than she would be with Mythal. This makes elgar'nan, Falon'Din, Andruil, and Ghilan'nain the most likely out of the Evenurus to murder Mythal and attack her temples. However, Falon'Din's main reason is in something told to us by Solas. Let's break this down. Solas has shown his allegiance to Mythal, whom he calls the greatest of the Evenurus, but Mythal still has Vilasaline, which means she still had slaves, and was still viewed as a god. Abelas even states she was a god. At least in his eyes, she was still a god. The only one out of the Evenurus known to be renouncing his supposed godhood was Solas. This was only after the people were stuck in the ways of seeing him as a god. He had to state many times over he wasn't a god. Also, a lot of what Solas says can be taken with a grain of salt. What is truth? What is biased opinion? Everything, even Solas's knowledge on the events unfolding then, would be a matter of stance and opinion. He was allied with Mythal. Really, she was his only ally among the other 8 Evenurus. Thus, Falon'Din might not have ended up with a strong enough motive to try and aid the others in killing Mythal. Now, this is all assuming Solas wasn't there to witness Mythal's death. If he was, this changes everything. It doesn't, however, mean all 7 wanted her dead or were even present at her death. If Solas was there, then we need to take the views from another angle. Only elgar'nan, Falon'Din, Andruil, and Ghilan'nain had motive to want Mythal dead. There is nothing pointing to a motive for June, Solas, and Dirthaman. However, we could also say that elgar'nan manipulated the situation into making the others believe Mythal needed to be removed. Now, there is one matter being overlooked, and this is a certain creator's ravens. Dirthaman has a raven known as Deceit, which could very well be a demon of deceit. This means Dirthaman could have tricked the Dread Wolf into believing Dirthaman was there when he actually wasn't. But why do this? Good question. Dirthaman could have several reasons for wanting to make Solas believe he was there with the others. One could be to move Solas's gaze from whatever was really going on, or just to make him not question his belief all of the other 7 were corrupt. Could Dirthaman have used Deceit's power to trick Solas into thinking all 7 were there? Quite possibly, but this is all assuming what Deceit can do, because we have never seen a demon of Deceit within game. We have seen a demon of fear within game, but never a demon of deceit. So we have no idea what a deceit demon's power is capable of. As is known in Trespasser, Solas can easily have spies placed throughout organizations. This can include having had spies among each of the Evenurus. This would mean Solas would have known the others, or even just a few of the others, intended to kill Mythal, and would have tried to stop them. This would have placed him close enough to know who was there. Taking into account Solas's skills for having spies within organizations, this makes the most likely theory ending up being all 7 were present at Mythal's death. Or even the theory that only 6 of them were there, with Solas being tricked into believing the 7th, Dirthaman, was there through Dirthaman's demon of deceit. My questions to you. Who do you think was at Mythal's death? Why? Could Solas have been there? Or was he absent? What do you think? I'd love to hear your beliefs in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest theory video. Thank you for watching. I will see you next week for the launch of the mystery video series.